Perfect. Now, a question about the business and some of the solutions of the internet. We're saying that there might be a large downfall of the economic or the energy crisis that are looming upon us. And yet, we still feel that there's some sort of reaction we can start building towards right now. Do you think that there might be a time when both of those will meet? And so, for example, we're asking people to go and start business, and yet the energy crisis comes a lot quicker than we expected in the next couple of years, and their business might not have paid back their initial investment.
The thing about the internet is it's so easy to start a business. There's so many business models where you don't need to invest a lot of money up front. You can start making a profit right away. But what the federal government, the U.S. government, is going to try to prop the system up because their view is very short term. So they're going to put little band-aids on it and try to keep it going as long as they can.
And every band-aid makes the currency shrink.
It's kind of like a tree with a limited root system that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. At some point, it's going to fall over. But the more they try to fix it, the bigger it gets. It's going to come down. It's part of a natural cycle, right? Governments grow too big.
Just like a flood is a natural cycle. In indigenous communities, a flood isn't seen as anything outside of nature. In fact, there are many indigenous cultures that it's actually built into their farming practice that the flood brings, more fertile land, and then they plant better rice the next year. And there are whole cultures that are based on flooding and farmland in a counterbalance.
But the opportunity here is to build wealth in the meantime. Wealth meaning an abundance of values, right? It's not just money. But if you can, if you have a business versus not having a business, you're a lot more sustainable. Your family is your communities. If you have resources, if you've built a farm, you can use the current economic system. Like, we're still doing pretty good here in the U.S. I mean,
at least for now.
At least for
now is the time to start building alternative systems while you can get the structures in place. We're actually at a fairly urgent stage.
So we're saying rather than wait until it collapsed to rebuild, start rebuilding now. Start building sustainable systems that work. So many of us here in America we're so individualistic. We're separate from everyone else. We're not engaged in our community. We can start that now.
And that's what we are doing post-flood in Cedar Rapids, is building that kind of community response. And Michael was describing that as an empire grows into this tree, and then it actually starts rotting from within, just like a tree starts to rot from within and then it falls over. The enterprises that we were describing in the book we were writing are like saplings, because they're bootstrapped, they're low capital, they're community-based, they're people-based. And for one thing, you can start those outside of the present banking system, and they will be maintained because they're operating outside of, like CSA is Community Supported Agriculture. They do not work with the banker to support that farm. The people who are consuming their food fund the farm. So that's a great metaphor for doing any business, because it's based on relationship, alliances, where the consumer and the producer really become part of one community. And that's really the model that is extremely urgent to build now, not only to produce food, but energy, education, all of the things that are real values. Frankly, 90% of what's produced in the consumer culture is absolutely worthless. It's not necessary. So you come down to the real values that are really necessary, and that's what happens in these dress rehearsals of rebuilding that happen after a disaster. People get real clear on what's really important, and that's really what's been demonstrated in New Orleans.
We're not suggesting business in this kind of consumer mentality where you mass market and try to get people to overconsume. A business is just an organism that provides enough value in its environment that it stays alive. If it's not providing value in its environment, it dies.
Right. See, it isn't accidental that the word ecology and economy have the same exact root, because back in their original conception, they're the same. An ecology is where all the living systems basically trade materials and energy for the whole system to survive. And that's exactly what an economy is too. We're on the campus of the college now. The professors in here, they're teaching basically monetary systems and how banks work. That has nothing to do with economics. And the word eco simply means home, and ecology means logy is any study or the knowledge of home, and then nomics is how you measure. So they're very related. It's about measuring the resources that make home work, and the only home we have is planet Earth. This is our shared system of base resources. So ecology and economy intertwine as one system in the new culture that's really emerging now. And you guys are traveling around, spreading that ecology message, because that is the root of the new economy.
If you want to jump in, you're gonna have to jump because we're so excited about what we're talking about.
We got about 10 minutes of tape.
In addition to starting a business, I think if we work with the concept of building alliances and really give us or families, if you will, give us a new perspective on our relationships, is probably even a more valuable resource than having a business. When crisis happens, is the people around you. Do you have relationships with people to where there's real deep love there? To where you're willing to stand with each other no matter what. And many of our relationships are superficial, and so I think that's one of the key things is, we're going to talk about a sustainable culture, a sustainable world. Peace happens first within ourselves, right, and then with the people that are in our lives, and that's probably the number one thing, even beyond starting a business and so forth. Because if you have, if things happen, if there are crises that happen, and you have people that are willing to stand with you no matter what, face anything, like that's incredibly valuable. And then one more thing, probably as important, if not, it's on the same level of importance, is really developing what I might call visionary consciousness, visionary mindset. We've been so conditioned to trained to follow here through our school system. Everything's kind of an authoritarian, top-down structure, and we've been trained to be good employees, good citizens, good students, good everything, which is follow the rules and kind of assume that the leader, whoever the leader is, knows where we're going, and everything's going to work out okay. Well, we really have to develop a visionary mindset where we're questioning everything. We're counting on our creative faculty to create, amidst in the face of crisis. And it's really a whole different level of thinking. But we've got to be able to be our own leaders rather than look for some great leader to come and save us. There's still a large percentage of the American population that have that great leader mentality. They're looking for some great leader to lead us out of the mess. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. We've each got to find that leader within ourselves.
And Michael was speaking to home and connection, and love is the basis. In a crisis, there's either a fear response or a love response, and love means working together. And it's only been 150 years that economies moved out of the home. Every economy for 50,000, 100,000 years of the human experience were home-based. You worked that farm together, and if you generated a little bit of surplus capital, the family started making things that they then traded within the village. And then we've been moving into this further and further and further globalized society. That only works with dirt cheap energy. Like I ship products into 25 countries, but that may not. I'm now building alliances where, rather than shipping my product to countries, where they're making it in that country.